No one would take in two Apache girls and their mother, until a cowboy said, "I will bring you home." She lived with her two daughters, Anna and Leela, on the edge of an Apache reservation, in a small, weathered cabin that barely kept out the cold winds of winter. The cabin was made of old wood and tin sheets, patched together in places where the rain and snow had found their way in. Despite the difficulties, Maria had made it home, a place where her daughters could feel safe, even if only for a little while. Anna, the elder of the two girls, was 10 years old. She had her mother's dark, expressive eyes, full of curiosity and intelligence. Leela, who was 8, was more playful, always finding small joys even in the hardest of times. The girls often played outside near the small creek behind their cabin, chasing each other and watching the birds flit across the water. Their laughter could sometimes be heard echoing in the empty spaces of the reservation, a rare sound of hope in a place that often felt lonely. Life, however, was far from easy. Their father had died when the girls were very young, leaving Maria to care for them on her own. She had tried to manage everything, gathering firewood, hunting small game, cooking, and keeping the cabin warm, but it was never enough. Food was scarce, and winter made every task harder. Some days, the girls would wake to find only a small portion of cornmeal left for breakfast, and Maria would eat very little to make sure they had enough. She could not afford to let them go hungry. The reservation itself was a quiet place, but not always a peaceful one. Many families struggled, and people tended to keep to themselves. Maria often went to nearby towns seeking work or help, but she was met with closed doors and wary faces. Some people were suspicious of her because of her Apache heritage. Others thought she was poor and weak, assuming she could not provide for her children. Every rejection cut into Maria's heart, but she tried not to show her sadness. She knew the girls were watching her closely, learning from how she handled life's difficulties. Anna and Leela had noticed these moments of pain. At night, when the wind howled outside and the cabin creaked, Anna would sometimes ask her mother why people treated them differently. Maria would hug her daughters tightly and say, "Some people are afraid of things they do not understand, but we will always have each other, and that is what matters most." It was not much, but it was enough to give the girls hope. Even with the hardships, Maria made sure the girls had a sense of wonder about the world. She told them stories from their family history, stories of brave Apache ancestors who had faced impossible challenges with courage and wisdom. She taught them the importance of honesty, respect, and kindness. Anna learned quickly, absorbing every lesson, while Leela showed her understanding through actions, always trying to help others, even in small ways. The girls learned resilience at a very young age, but they also learned the pain of being rejected and the unfairness of the world outside their cabin. Winter approached, bringing with it harsh winds and early snowfall. The thin walls of their cabin were not enough to keep out the chill. Maria wrapped the girls in every blanket she had, but it was never quite enough. She worried constantly about keeping them warm and fed. Every day she would go to the woods to collect firewood or to the sparse fields to find anything that could be used for food. She knew that if she failed, it would not only be hunger but illness that would threaten her children. One morning, Maria decided to go into the nearest town to ask for work. The road was long and cold, and the girls stayed behind in the cabin, keeping warm near the small fireplace. Maria's heart was heavy with worry. She knew that in the town, people often looked down on families like hers, but she also knew she had no choice. If she stayed in the cabin without work, the girls would not have enough to eat. When she arrived in town, Maria found the streets unusually quiet. Snow had begun to fall lightly, dusting the wooden roofs of the small shops. She entered the first store she saw, hoping to find work or even just some food to buy with the few coins she had. The storekeeper looked at her with suspicion. "We don't need help right now," he said curtly, refusing even to offer advice or guidance. Maria nodded politely, hiding her disappointment, and moved on to the next shop. The second shop was no different. Maria explained her situation, her voice steady but soft. She spoke of her daughters, of her struggle to keep them fed and warm. The shopkeeper listened briefly and then shook his head. "I'm sorry, but I cannot help you," he said, his eyes looking past her as if she were invisible. Maria's heart sank, but she did not cry. She knew she had to keep trying. She left the shop and wandered through the streets, knocking on door after door, asking for any kind of work, any small favor. Each time the answer was the same: no. By the end of the day, Maria's hope was waning. Her hands were numb from the cold, and her stomach ached from not having eaten properly. She walked back toward the cabin, carrying nothing but her despair and the small bag of items she had managed to collect. When she arrived, Anna and Leela ran to meet her, their faces bright with relief at seeing their mother return safely. Maria hugged them both tightly, whispering words of comfort. "We tried today, and tomorrow we will try again," she said. The girls nodded, trusting her, even though they too had begun to feel the weight of the world's cruelty. That night, as the wind howled and snow fell softly outside, Maria sat by the fire, thinking about what she could do next. She knew she could not give up. Her daughters depended on her, and she depended on hope, the hope that someone someday would see their courage and give them a chance. She thought about the stories of her ancestors, about the women who had fought through impossible odds. Maria drew strength from these stories and whispered a promise to herself and her daughters. "No matter what, we will survive, and one day we will find a place where we belong." Anna and Leela lay close to their mother, listening to the crackling of the fire and the occasional howl of the wind. Despite the fear and uncertainty, there was a small spark of hope in their hearts. They trusted their mother's strength, and they believed that better days were coming. Even in the face of rejection and cold, they knew that love could keep them warm. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the ground in a soft white blanket. Inside the cabin, Maria and her daughters huddled together, sharing warmth, hope, and determination. They had nothing but each other, yet that was everything. They did not know what tomorrow would bring, but Maria was determined to keep moving forward, to keep fighting for her daughters, and to never let the world's cruelty break their spirits. This was just the beginning of their journey, a story of struggle, rejection, and resilience. Maria knew the road ahead would be long and hard, but she also knew that somewhere, beyond the closed doors and suspicious glances, there was a place where they would be welcomed. And she vowed that no matter how long it took, she would find it. The next morning, Maria woke early, as she always did, before the sun had fully risen. The cabin was cold and frost had formed on the edges of the windows. Anna and Leela were already awake, quietly brushing their hair and whispering to each other as they tried to stay warm under the thin blankets. Maria looked at them, her heart full of both love and worry. She knew that the days ahead would be harder than the ones behind them. The snow had begun to cover the paths, and the townspeople would be even less willing to help strangers in such harsh weather. Maria wrapped herself in a thick coat she had patched herself, tied her scarf tightly, and prepared to go into town once again. She kissed the girls on the forehead and whispered, "Stay together, keep warm, and wait for me. I will be back soon." Anna and Leela nodded, their faces serious, knowing the dangers of the world outside their small cabin. They watched their mother disappear into the white morning, her figure growing smaller as she walked toward the distant town, determined to find work or even just a friendly face. The journey to town was difficult. Snow crunched beneath Maria's worn boots, and icy winds cut through her coat. She held her small bag tightly, hoping it contained enough to trade for some food or to earn a day's wage. When she arrived, the streets were mostly empty. A few townspeople hurried past her, heads down, avoiding her gaze. Maria stopped at the first house she saw, hoping to find someone willing to help. She knocked gently on the wooden door, and after a moment, an older woman opened it. Maria smiled politely. Please, I am looking for work. I have 2 daughters at home and we need food and warmth. If there is anything you need done, I will do it, I promise. The woman looked Maria up and down, her eyes narrowing slightly. I'm sorry, she said finally. I have nothing for you. And with the snow coming, it's not safe for strangers to wander the streets. Maria nodded, hiding her disappointment. She thanked the woman and moved on, trying not to feel defeated. Door after door, the story repeated itself. Shopkeepers and townspeople shook their heads, some muttering that Maria should go back to the reservation, others saying they had no work for women. With every rejection, Maria felt a weight pressing on her chest. She thought of her daughters waiting for her, of the cold cabin, and the empty stomachs that would greet them if she returned without success. Still, she pressed on, determined not to give up. As the hours passed, Maria's hope began to fade. Her hands were numb from the cold, and her feet ached from walking. Yet she continued, driven by the love for her daughters and the small flame of determination that had carried her through every hardship in her life. She stopped briefly to rest on a wooden bench, her breath forming clouds in the frosty air. She looked at the sky, gray and heavy with snow, and whispered a prayer. Please, someone, anyone, help us. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, Anna and Leela were trying to keep themselves busy. They gathered small sticks and kindling to add to the fire, carefully stacking them so that the flames would last longer. Anna tried to read a small, worn book she had found, while Leela practiced drawing shapes in the frost on the windows. They spoke little, understanding the seriousness of their situation. Both girls felt the sting of loneliness and the harsh reality of the world's rejection. Their mother had left them alone in the cold, and though they trusted her, fear began to creep in. By mid-morning, Maria had reached the market square, where a few vendors were setting up their stalls. She approached an elderly man selling fruits and vegetables. Please, sir, she said softly, I can help you in any way. I just need enough to feed my daughters. The man glanced at her, then at the snow-covered ground and shook his head. I'm sorry, but I have nothing to give you. Times are hard for everyone, you see. Maria's heart sank further. She thanked him and continued on, feeling the cold wind bite through her coat and chilling her to the bone. Hours passed, and Maria's hope began to feel like a fragile thread, ready to snap. She tried one more street, knocking on doors and explaining her situation. Some people ignored her, others gave a cold shake of the head. She felt invisible, as if the world had decided she did not belong anywhere. Every refusal hurt, not only because of the immediate need for food and work, but because of the way people looked at her daughters as if they were somehow less than others. Maria felt a wave of frustration and sadness, but she pushed it down. She could not afford to break down, not now, not when Anna and Leela depended on her. Finally, in the late afternoon, Maria returned to the main road, her arms empty, her steps slow. Snow was beginning to fall more heavily, covering the ground in a soft white layer. She knew her daughters would be waiting, hoping for something, anything, that she could bring back. The thought of returning empty-handed was almost unbearable. She paused on the road, looking out over the town, and wondered if there would ever be anyone willing to help them. When she finally reached the cabin, Anna and Leela ran to meet her, their faces showing both relief and worry. Maria forced a tired smile, trying to hide her despair. She hugged the girls tightly, feeling the warmth of their small bodies against hers. I tried today, she said softly. I knocked on many doors, but people could not help us. Tomorrow, I will try again. Anna and Leela nodded, their eyes reflecting the same determination they had seen in their mother. That evening, Maria prepared a small meal with what little she had left, some dried corn and a few scraps of vegetables. They ate quietly, each lost in their own thoughts. Anna wondered why people treated them differently, while Leila, though young, felt the unfairness of the world pressing on her small shoulders. Maria spoke softly to them, telling them stories of their ancestors and reminding them of their strength. "We are brave and we are kind," she said. "No matter what, we will never give up on each other. That is what makes us strong." As the night grew colder, the three of them huddled near the fire. The wind howled outside, rattling the cabin's thin walls, but inside there was a small warmth, both from the fire and from their love for each other. Maria held Anna and Lila close, feeling their small hearts beating against hers. Despite the rejections, the cold, and the loneliness, there was still hope. She whispered promises to herself and to them, promising that they would find a place where they were welcome, where they could live without fear of judgment or rejection. The next day, Maria awoke determined to continue her search. She knew it would not be easy, but she had no choice. Every step, every knock on a door, every request for help was a chance to find someone who would see them not as poor strangers, but as brave, kind, and deserving of compassion. She dressed warmly, packed a small bag, and kissed her daughters goodbye, reminding them to stay safe and warm. Anna and Lila watched her leave, holding hands and drawing comfort from each other's presence. As Maria walked through the snow-covered streets once again, she noticed small signs of life. A merchant opening a shop, children running past on their way to school. But each interaction reminded her of the distance between her family and the world. People hurried past, eyes downcast, unwilling to meet hers. The loneliness of rejection pressed on her, but she kept moving forward. She reminded herself that one day someone would see her family's courage, and that day would change everything. Even as the days went by, and rejection after rejection piled on, Maria refused to let despair take hold. She found small victories in keeping her daughters fed and warm, in teaching them the values of resilience, kindness, and hope. Anna and Lila learned from her example, understanding that life could be harsh, but with determination, love, and courage, they could survive. Each day was a struggle, but it was also a lesson in endurance, in holding on to hope when the world seemed determined to close every door. By the time the sun set on the third day of her search, Maria returned to the cabin once again, tired but unbroken. She found Anna and Lila waiting, their eyes bright with hope despite the harsh winter outside. They shared a small meal, sat by the fire, and listened to their mother tell stories of strength and courage. The snow continued to fall outside, covering the world in white, but inside the cabin there was warmth, love, and a promise that they would never give up. Maria knew the journey ahead would be long and difficult. She did not know when or how help would come, but she refused to lose hope. She had her daughters, and together they would face whatever challenges the world placed before them. The rejections they had faced only strengthened their bond, teaching them to rely on each other and to trust in the small sparks of kindness that might appear in unexpected places. As night fell, Maria whispered to Anna and Lila, "Tomorrow is a new day. We will try again, and we will find someone who will see us for who we are and not just for where we come from." Anna and Lila held her hands tightly, their hearts filled with a quiet determination. Together, they would survive. Together, they would continue their search for a place where they belonged, a place where the world's coldness could not reach them. The next morning, Maria woke to the soft glow of sunlight filtering through the thin curtains of their cabin. The snow outside had stopped falling, leaving the world covered in a sparkling white blanket. For a moment, she paused by the window, taking in the quiet beauty of the morning. Despite the harshness of life, there were moments like this that reminded her of the world's gentle side. She kissed Anna and Lila on the forehead and reminded them to stay warm while she went into town to search for work. Her heart was heavy with worry, but she refused to let it show. As she walked toward the town, Maria's thoughts were full of concern for her daughters. She imagined the long hours they would spend near the fire, trying to keep warm and hoping for a better future. Her mind was filled with strategies, how to ask for work, where to find food, and how to finally convince someone to take a chance on them. She knew that every attempt until now had failed, but there was a small voice inside her whispering that today might be different. The town seemed almost deserted as she arrived. The snow had left streets slick with ice, and the cold wind carried a sharpness that made her cheeks sting. Maria moved carefully, knocking on doors, speaking politely, and explaining her situation. Some people ignored her, others offered excuses. Her hope began to feel fragile again, like a small bird struggling to keep its wings open in a storm. But she pressed on, knowing that she could not return empty-handed once more. As she wandered near the outskirts of the town, she noticed a figure on horseback approaching from the distance. The man rode confidently, guiding a strong, brown horse with gentle hands. Maria paused, curious. The man seemed different from the townspeople she had encountered so far. He did not hurry past or avoid her gaze. Instead, he rode slowly, as if he were observing the world carefully and thoughtfully. Maria felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. When the rider reached her, he dismounted gracefully and approached with a kind, steady smile. His hat was slightly tilted back, revealing sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to notice every detail. "Good morning," he said in a warm voice. "You look like someone who has been carrying a heavy load. Are you all right?" Maria was taken aback. Most people had avoided her or treated her with suspicion. This man, however, seemed genuinely concerned. Maria took a deep breath. "I am managing," she said softly. It has been hard. I have 2 daughters and I have been trying to find work and food. The townspeople have not been able to help." The cowboy listened carefully, nodding as she spoke. He did not interrupt or judge, he simply allowed her to share her story. Maria felt a strange relief in telling someone who actually seemed to care. "My name is Samuel," the man said after a moment. "I work on a ranch not far from here. I have seen families struggle, and I believe that everyone deserves a chance. If you are willing, I would like to offer you and your daughters a place to stay, at least until you are on your feet." Maria stared at him in disbelief. For so long, she had been rejected, turned away, and ignored. And now a stranger, a man she had never met, was offering them hope. "Are you serious?" she asked quietly, almost afraid to believe it. Samuel nodded. "I am serious. You and your daughters have endured much, and I can see your strength and courage. I know it is difficult to trust people after what you have been through, but I promise this is genuine. I will bring you home." Maria's heart swelled with a mixture of relief, gratitude, and disbelief. Could it really be true? Could someone finally see her family not as poor strangers, but as human beings worthy of kindness? She paused for a moment, considering the offer. Part of her feared disappointment, afraid that this too might end in rejection. But the look in Samuel's eyes, calm and honest, convinced her to take a chance. "Yes," she said softly, we would be grateful, thank you." Samuel smiled warmly, tipping his hat. "Then let us go. Your home awaits, and I will make sure you arrive safely." As they rode toward the ranch, Maria held tightly to the reins of the small cart she had managed to borrow, while Samuel guided his horse beside them. The girls, Anna and Leela, clung to their mother, their faces a mix of excitement and cautious hope. For the first time in a long while, they felt that the world might be a place where they could belong. The snow-covered landscape stretched out before them, and the journey, though cold and long, felt like the first step toward a new life. On the way, Samuel spoke kindly to the girls, asking about their interests, their favorite stories, and what they dreamed of doing when they grew up. Anna's eyes lit up as she described her love of drawing, while Leela shyly mentioned her fascination with books. Samuel listened intently, encouraging them and making them feel seen and valued. Maria glanced at her daughters, tears welling in her eyes. She had worried for so long that the world would never care for them, and now, here was someone showing them genuine attention and warmth. The journey was not without its challenges. The snow had made some paths slippery, and the cold wind cut through their coats. Samuel was patient, guiding them carefully and ensuring their safety. He shared stories of his own life, teaching lessons about courage, kindness, and perseverance. Maria found comfort in his words and guidance, realizing that this man was not only helping them with shelter and food, but also giving them hope and teaching them how to navigate a world that could be harsh and unkind. When they finally arrived at the ranch, Maria was amazed. The house was sturdy and warm, with smoke curling from the chimney and a sense of peace surrounding it. Samuel helped her and the girls inside, showing them a room that would be theirs. The girls' eyes widened in wonder at the cozy beds, the warmth of the fire, and the simple comfort of a home that felt safe. For the first time in their lives, they did not have to worry about the cold wind, the snow, or the hunger gnawing at their stomachs. Maria took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. She looked at Samuel, wanting to express her gratitude, but words seemed insufficient. He smiled at her, understanding without needing an explanation. "You are safe now," he said simply. "This is your home, at least for as long as you need it. Together, we will make sure you and your daughters have what you need to thrive." Over the next few days, Maria and the girls began to settle into their new home. Maria helped with chores around the ranch, learning new skills and gaining a sense of purpose. Anna and Leela explored the surrounding fields and barns, meeting animals and discovering new hobbies. Samuel encouraged their curiosity, teaching them about nature, animals, and the land. Slowly, the cabin that had been their only home began to feel like a distant memory, replaced by a place filled with warmth, care, and hope. Maria found that her daughter's confidence grew each day. Anna spent hours drawing, capturing the beauty of the ranch and the animals that roamed freely. Leela, ever curious, began to read the small books Samuel had provided, her imagination opening to new worlds she had only dreamed of before. Maria watched them, proud and amazed at how quickly they adapted and how much joy returned to their lives. It was a reminder that children, when given love and opportunity, could thrive even after the harshest hardships. In the evenings, the family would gather by the fire, sharing stories of their past struggles and slowly weaving a sense of belonging in their hearts. Maria spoke of the rejection they had faced and the lessons they had learned. Samuel listened, offering guidance and encouragement, teaching them that kindness could be found in unexpected places, and that trust, once given wisely, could open doors they had never imagined. One night, as the snow fell gently outside, Maria tucked Anna and Leela into their warm beds. She sat quietly, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. The pain, the rejection, and the loneliness had all been part of their story, but now a new chapter had begun, one filled with hope, safety, and love. She whispered softly, "We have found someone who believes in us. And because of that, we can believe in ourselves too." Anna and Leela, listening to their mother's words, smiled in their sleep, feeling the warmth of home and the promise of a brighter future. For the first time in years, Maria allowed herself to rest without fear. She had faced the harshness of the world and had been met with kindness when she least expected it. Samuel, the cowboy who had appeared at the right moment, had not only brought them to safety, but had opened the door to a life filled with possibility. Maria knew that challenges would still come, but she also knew that they would face them together, stronger and more resilient than ever before. The story of Maria and her daughters had taken a turn that no one could have predicted. From rejection and struggle, they had moved toward hope and belonging, and it all began with one person, one act of kindness, one promise: "I will bring you home." That promise, spoken simply and sincerely, had changed their lives forever. As the night deepened, Maria looked out the window at the stars twinkling above the snow-covered fields. She felt a sense of peace she had not known in years. She thought of the past, of the struggles and pain, but she also looked forward to the future, filled with possibility and promise. And she knew, deep in her heart, that no matter what came next, they had found the beginning of a life where they could belong, where they could grow, and where they could thrive. Life at the ranch quickly became a new beginning for Maria and her daughters, Anna and Leela. The first few days were filled with awe and cautious excitement. The ranch was larger than anything the girls had ever seen. Fields stretched for miles, dotted with grazing animals, and the farmhouse was warm and welcoming. Maria felt a sense of relief she hadn't experienced in years, but she also knew that adapting to this new life would take time and effort. The girls, too, had to learn to trust that this safety was real, not temporary like the fleeting kindnesses they had encountered in town. Samuel, the cowboy who had brought them here, was patient and kind. He gave Maria tasks around the ranch that she could manage, teaching her how to care for animals, tend to the fields, and help with household chores. Each day, Maria grew more confident, realizing that she could do more than she had imagined. The girls were encouraged to explore their interests. Anna discovered a talent for drawing the landscapes and animals, while Leela, curious and eager to learn, began to read books Samuel had collected from his travels. The ranch, with its wide-open spaces and steady routine, became a place of growth and learning for all three of them. One morning, Maria walked to the barn to feed the chickens and collect eggs. Anna and Leela followed, carrying small baskets, eager to help. Samuel joined them, showing the girls how to care for the animals properly. "See," he said gently, "if you are patient and kind, the animals will trust you. People are the same. Treat them with respect and care, and they will respond in kind." Anna nodded, absorbing the lesson, while Leela giggled as a small chick nestled in her hands. For the first time, the girls felt a sense of accomplishment and pride in their work. Maria, too, found joy in learning new skills. She discovered that she had a natural ability to tend to plants and animals. She began planting vegetables and flowers around the farmhouse, creating a small garden that added beauty and life to their new home. Each morning, she would wake early to water the plants, feed the animals, and prepare breakfast for everyone. The work was hard, but it was rewarding, and it gave her a sense of purpose that had been missing in her life for so long. Despite the warmth and safety of the ranch, the transition was not without its challenges. Maria often worried about the past, about the hunger, cold, and rejection they had endured. She wondered if they would ever be fully accepted in the wider world. The girls, too, faced moments of doubt and fear. Anna sometimes hesitated to show her drawings to others, worried they might not be appreciated, while Leela struggled with her reading, finding some words difficult to understand. Samuel, noticing their concerns, offered encouragement and guidance. "Mistakes are part of learning," he would say. "Every challenge is an opportunity to grow. You are stronger than you think." Over time, the family began to establish routines that made life smoother and more comfortable. Anna and Leela attended a nearby school for the first time in their lives. At first, the girls were nervous, unsure how they would be treated by other children, but they quickly discovered that school could be a place of discovery and friendship. Anna found other children who shared her love for drawing, and Leela made friends who loved stories as much as she did. The girls learned new subjects, practiced their reading and writing, and began to dream about the future. Maria watched her daughters grow with pride. She remembered the days when they had nothing but each other, when food was scarce and warmth was hard to find. Now, seeing them laugh, learn, and explore, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. The ranch had not only given them safety, but also allowed them to flourish in ways Maria had never thought possible. Every smile, every small accomplishment, was a reminder that their perseverance had paid off. Samuel remained a constant source of support. He taught the girls practical skills, like how to ride horses safely and care for animals, but he also shared lessons about life. He spoke about honesty, responsibility, and compassion, helping the girls understand that success was not just about talent, but about character and determination. Maria often watched these lessons in action, seeing how the girls absorbed the wisdom and applied it in their daily lives. One day, as spring approached, the garden that Maria had planted began to bloom. Bright flowers and fresh vegetables covered the small plots, bringing color and life to the ranch. Maria felt proud of the growth she had nurtured, not just in the garden, but in her daughters as well. Anna had started to sketch the plants, while Leela wrote small stories inspired by their daily life. Each day, their creativity blossomed alongside the garden, a symbol of their new beginning and the opportunities that had opened up to them. Life at the ranch also taught the girls the importance of teamwork and responsibility. They learned that caring for animals and plants required patience, dedication, and consistency. They had to rise early, complete chores, and help each other when tasks seemed difficult. Over time, these routines instilled a sense of discipline and independence. Anna became more organized, making sure her sketches were neat and detailed, while Leela developed confidence in reading aloud and helping with the smaller chores. Maria observed these changes with quiet pride, realizing that her daughters were growing into capable and self-reliant young girls. Evenings at the ranch were a time for reflection and family bonding. After the day's work was done, they would gather by the fireplace, sharing stories, recounting the day's events, and discussing what they had learned. Samuel often joined them, offering gentle guidance and encouragement. Maria sometimes spoke about the past, about the struggles they had faced, and the lessons they had learned. Anna and Leela listened attentively, understanding the depth of their mother's resilience and the importance of never giving up. Despite their growing confidence, the family faced occasional challenges. Storms would sometimes hit the ranch, forcing them to work together to protect the animals and the home. There were days when chores felt overwhelming, or when fatigue threatened to dampen their spirits. But through it all, Maria reminded her daughters of their inner strength and the importance of perseverance. Samuel, too, encouraged them to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles. "Every difficulty you overcome makes you stronger," he would say. "And every lesson learned helps you face the next challenge with courage." The girls began to dream more openly about the future. Anna wanted to become an artist, imagining a life filled with colors, drawings, and creativity. Leela dreamed of becoming a teacher, helping children learn and discover the world as she had begun to. Maria, inspired by her daughter's dreams, realized that her role was to support and nurture them, ensuring they had the confidence and tools to pursue their aspirations. The ranch had not only given them a safe place to live, but had sparked hope and ambition that had been absent for so long. As the months passed, the family became more integrated into the local community. Maria, with Samuel's guidance, built relationships with nearby families, sharing stories, helping with tasks, and contributing to community events. Anna and Leela also began to form friendships with other children, learning the value of connection, trust, and shared experiences. Slowly, the fear of rejection that had haunted them for so long began to fade, replaced by a sense of belonging and confidence. Through all these changes, one lesson remained clear: kindness and opportunity could transform lives. The small act of generosity from Samuel had opened doors that had long been closed to Maria and her daughters. His belief in them, his willingness to give them a chance, had allowed them to grow, learn, and thrive. Maria often reflected on this, teaching her daughters that one person's kindness could change the course of many lives. Anna and Leela, in turn, learned the importance of giving back, of helping others when they had the chance, and of carrying forward the lessons of compassion and courage they had received. By the time summer arrived, the family had fully settled into the rhythm of ranch life. Maria had become skilled in her work, earning respect and admiration from the neighboring families. Anna's drawings had improved remarkably, capturing the beauty of the animals and landscape with increasing detail and confidence. Leela's reading and storytelling had blossomed, and she began to share her stories with other children, earning smiles and applause. The family's life, once filled with fear and struggle, had transformed into one of hope, opportunity, and growth. In quiet moments, Maria would sit by the window, watching her daughters play in the fields, their laughter carrying through the air like music. She thought about the journey that had brought them here, from rejection, hunger, and cold to safety, learning, and love. The hardships had not been erased, but they had been met with perseverance, courage, and the unexpected kindness of a man who had given them a chance. Maria felt a deep sense of gratitude, understanding that life could be harsh, but it could also be full of unexpected beauty and generosity. The ranch had become more than a home, it had become a place of transformation. Maria and her daughters had grown not only in strength and confidence, but in their understanding of the world and the importance of compassion. They had learned that setbacks could be overcome, that courage and perseverance mattered more than fear, and that kindness, even from a stranger, could create lasting change. The family had discovered a sense of belonging that had once seemed impossible, and they cherished it deeply, knowing that it was the result of both their own efforts and the generosity of someone who had believed in them. Years had passed since Maria, Anna, and Leela first arrived. At the ranch with Samuel, the small cabin by the reservation and the struggles of the past felt like memories from another lifetime. The girls had grown into confident young women, and Maria had blossomed in ways she had never imagined. Life was not without challenges, but the warmth, stability, and love of the ranch had given them everything they needed to thrive. Anna, now a teenager, had become an accomplished artist. Her drawings, once simple sketches in the dirt, now filled notebooks and walls of the farmhouse. She drew the animals she cared for, the landscapes of the ranch, and the people who had helped shape her life. Her art was her way of expressing her gratitude, hope, and dreams. Sometimes she would sit by the window for hours, capturing the subtle colors of sunrise or the glimmer of sunlight on the snow, feeling peaceful and proud of her talent. Leela had grown into a bright, compassionate young woman with a love for stories and learning. She had developed a habit of reading every day, sharing her knowledge and excitement with anyone willing to listen. Children in the nearby town often gathered around to hear her stories, which she told with warmth and imagination. Leela had also started helping younger children with reading, teaching them patiently, just as Samuel and her mother had guided her. She carried the lessons of kindness and patience into everything she did, inspired by the generosity that had once been shown to her. Maria, now older but still strong and vibrant, reflected often on their journey. The life she had once imagined for her daughters, one filled with fear, hunger, and rejection, had been replaced with hope, opportunity, and love. She was proud of their growth, but she also knew that their success had been possible because someone had believed in them when no one else would. Samuel's decision to bring them to the ranch had changed the course of their lives, showing them that one act of kindness could ripple outward, transforming hearts and futures. Samuel remained a guiding presence in their lives. Though he had come into their world as a stranger, he had become family. He shared in their joys, offered guidance during challenges, and celebrated their accomplishments. Maria often marveled at the quiet way he encouraged them, teaching lessons not through force but through example. He showed the girls that courage, compassion, and integrity mattered just as much as talent or skill. His influence shaped not only their skills but also the values they carried forward into the world. Life at the ranch had brought stability, but it had also taught the family about hard work and responsibility. Every day required effort, from tending the animals to caring for the garden and managing the household. Maria and the girls had learned that prosperity was not about avoiding work, but about embracing it with dedication and pride. They celebrated the small victories, whether it was a successful harvest, a completed drawing, or a new skill learned. Each day was a reminder that life's rewards often came from patience, perseverance, and love. As the girls grew older, they also became aware of the importance of giving back. They remembered the hardships of their early years and the kindness that had rescued them. Anna began donating her artwork to local events, bringing joy to children and families. Leela organized small reading groups, teaching others the skills she had worked so hard to master. Maria, too, reached out to families in need, sharing her knowledge of gardening, cooking, and caring for animals. Together, they transformed the lessons they had learned into actions that could help others, spreading the same hope that had been given to them. The sense of community around the ranch grew stronger over time. Neighbors visited frequently, offering small gifts or help, and the girls formed lasting friendships. Anna's art was admired, and Leela's storytelling inspired younger children. Maria, once shy and hesitant, became a respected figure, known for her wisdom, kindness, and resilience. Their presence at the ranch had become a source of joy and inspiration to others, proving that even families who had faced tremendous hardship could flourish with love, support, and opportunity. One crisp autumn morning, Maria sat on the porch, watching Anna and Leela play with a group of children near the barn. The girls laughed freely, their voices carrying across the fields. Maria's heart swelled with pride and gratitude. She thought of the long winters of hunger and cold, the rejection at every door, and the nights spent wondering if they would ever find safety. Now, surrounded by life, laughter, and love, she felt a deep peace. She knew that the struggles they had endured had not been in vain. They had shaped them into the resilient, compassionate people they had become. Samuel joined her on the porch, carrying a warm cup of tea. He smiled at Maria, noticing the content expression on her face. "You have done well," he said quietly. "Your daughters are thriving and you have built a home filled with love and strength. I only guided you. You made this life for yourselves." Maria nodded, feeling tears prick her eyes. "It would not have been possible without you," she said. "You saw us when no one else would. You believed in us, and because of that, we have found our place in the world." Samuel placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they shared and the lives they had transformed together. Anna and Leela eventually reached the age where they could pursue their passions more seriously. Anna's drawings gained recognition beyond the ranch, with local exhibitions showcasing her talent. She dreamed of becoming a professional artist, inspired by the beauty of the world and the journey that had brought her to this point. Leela, equally ambitious, continued her studies and began to dream of opening a small school or library, where children from all backgrounds could learn and grow. Both girls understood that their dreams were built on the foundation of love, support, and opportunity they had received at the ranch. Maria, watching her daughters chase their dreams, felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known. Her role as a mother had always been to protect and nurture, but now she also witnessed the fruits of her perseverance and sacrifice. The girls were not only surviving, they were thriving. They were creative, compassionate, and independent. They had learned to face challenges with courage, to treat others with kindness, and to embrace life with curiosity and determination. Maria's heart overflowed with pride and joy, knowing that they had become the people she had always hoped they could be. Through it all, the lessons of the past remained important. Maria often shared stories with the girls about their early struggles, the cold nights, the empty cupboards, and the rejection they had faced. But she also emphasized the power of resilience, hope, and kindness. "Remember," she would say, "no matter how hard life may seem, there is always a way forward. Someone's kindness can change everything, and your own actions can do the same for others." Anna and Leela absorbed these words, carrying them forward as guiding principles in their own lives. The family's journey also became a story shared with the community. Neighbors and friends would often ask Maria how she had managed to keep her daughters strong and hopeful despite everything. She would smile and speak simply about perseverance, love, and the unexpected kindness of a man who had changed their lives. The story inspired others, reminding them that hope could be found even in the darkest of times, and that one person's compassion could ripple outward, touching lives in ways that could never be measured. Even years later, the memory of the first day Samuel had brought them to the ranch remained vivid in Maria's mind. She remembered the cold, the snow, the fear, and the hope that had flickered in her heart when he had promised, "I will bring you home." That promise had been more than words, it had been a lifeline. It had led them to safety, stability, and a life filled with opportunity. Maria often reflected on this moment, teaching her daughters the importance of trusting in kindness and being brave enough to accept help when it was offered. As the seasons changed, the family continued to thrive. Winter no longer brought fear or hunger, but cozy nights by the fire, storytelling, and the joy of seeing the girls grow. Spring brought new life to the garden, summer brought long days of work and laughter in the fields, and autumn brought harvests and reflection. Each season was a reminder of growth, renewal, and the endless possibilities that life could offer when nurtured with care and love. Maria often thought about the journey that had brought them here, the long nights of struggle, the cold and hunger, the rejection at every door. She realized that those hardships had shaped her daughters' strength, resilience, and compassion. But she also knew that none of it would have been possible without the generosity and courage of someone willing to see them for who they truly were. Samuel's simple act of kindness had created a foundation for a life filled with hope, opportunity, and love. As the sun set on the ranch one warm summer evening, Maria, Anna, and Leela sat together on the porch, watching the golden light spread across the fields. The animals were settling for the night, and the world felt calm and peaceful. Maria's heart was full of gratitude for the life they now had. She knew that the past would always be a part of them, but it no longer defined them. They had found their home, their place in the world, and a life filled with promise. Anna leaned her head on her mother's shoulder while Leela held her hand. "We are lucky, Mama," Anna whispered. "We have a home and we are happy." Maria smiled, brushing her daughter's hair back gently. "Yes," she said softly, "we are lucky, but we are also strong and we are kind, and we will always remember to share that strength and kindness with the world." In that moment, surrounded by love, warmth, and the beauty of the ranch, Maria realized that their journey was more than survival. It was a testament to the power of hope, perseverance, and human kindness. The family had faced unimaginable challenges, but through courage, determination, and the generosity of one person, they had built a life that was meaningful, full, and inspiring. And so, the story of Maria, Anna, and Leela came full circle. From the cold nights and closed doors of the past to the warmth, love, and opportunity of the present, their journey was a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope could shine through. Samuel's simple promise, "I will bring you home," had been the spark that ignited a lifetime of growth, learning, and love. The family's life was now a living testament to the idea that kindness, courage, and perseverance could transform lives in ways that would never be forgotten.